Tales for Dark Nights.
Want to make sure you never miss a Chilling Tales for Dark Nights video again? Be sure to subscribe and hit that bell to turn on notifications.
She is still the most beautiful woman I've ever seen. Brown eyes shaded with the amber haze of a perfect autumn. Full red lips that curl in mischief. Thick, wavy blonde hair that teases her bare shoulders. She burns so bright it makes my eyes water. Yet I cannot look away, dare not look away, lest this moment passes before I've had my fill. After all, such opportunities don't come often these days, where we get to be together. Just the two of us, alone. These moments are precious, priceless. And here she walks towards me, the rhythmic clicking of her heels on the linoleum floor, the hypnotic sway of her hips, and her tight red dress reminding me of the time I asked her to marry me in this very restaurant. That evening, we met at the park half a mile to the east of this place, strolled up to the ridge overlooking the marble fountain, sat on the cracked stone bench, and talked. Talked until the smoky sky streaked with the embers of the setting sun turned into a black blanket studded with small diamonds. Talked until my heart swelled in my chest, threatened to tear itself free of the bone that held it in place. We wrapped our arms around each other's waists as we walked to the restaurant, our eyes full of love and hope and dreams and things that made life worth living. I remember the look on her face when I went down on one knee that night, how her eyes sparkled with tears and the glimmer of light reflected off the diamond, how she cupped one hand on her mouth, slowly extended the other one towards me, how she threw herself into my arms and sobbed into my chest after I slipped the ring onto her finger. My spine tingled with ecstasy. I felt like I was on top of the world, invincible. "What are you thinking about, handsome?" she asks, pulling me out of my reverie. "You," I answer. "What else could it be?" She smiles and glides into the seat opposite mine. The flames of the black candelabrum on the table flicker as she tosses her purse to the side, brushes a loose strand of hair behind her ear. "I hope I didn't make you wait too long. Work was just a bitch." I shake my head. "No, you arrived exactly when I thought you would." She makes an expression of faux shock. "What's that supposed to mean? I'll have you know I'm a very punctual woman." "Oh, of course you are. Who would dare doubt that?" "You're lucky you're cute, mister." "Well, a man's got to have at least one redeeming quality, right?" She chuckles, then leans forward and rests her chin on the palm of her hand. The act makes my heart beat faster. "Careful now, that's my husband you're talking about." "Apologies, my lady." I bow my head in an exaggerated manner. "I did not mean to insult the good gentleman." Fine. I'll let you off this one time." We both look at each other and laugh. It's not loud and boisterous, but muted, a laughter that's born from the comfort of years of companionship. "This is nice," she says. "We should do this more often." "We really should." "If only you weren't so busy all the time." "I won't be," I reply. "Not anymore." She raises an eyebrow. "What do you mean?" I flash her a broad smile. "Like I said, I won't be so busy anymore. At least, not in the foreseeable future." "Wait, don't tell me. Did you solve the case?" I nod my head. "What?" Her eyes widen in excitement. "No way! You caught the guy?" "Yep." "The murderer?" "Yep." "The most infamous serial killer in the tri-state area?" "Yeah." "Get out of here." I laugh. "I'm not joking. We really did solve the case." "Really? How come I haven't heard about it on the news?" she asks. Oh, you are definitely not going to hear about it on the news. She looks at me with suspicion. What are you talking about? It's just, the case isn't fit for the media. Not anymore. She groans. God, you're killing me. Just tell me how you found out who the killer was. I grinned. This was one of the biggest reasons why we got together in the first place. Not everyone is cut out to be married to someone in my profession. The job can get taxing. Long hours, little to no rewards, the constant threat to life, the stress that comes with dealing with the absolute scum of society. Certainly not easy to find someone who'd be willing to put up with all that. But I did, and she didn't just tolerate it, she loved it. In the early days of our courtship, we spent far more time discussing my cases than the usual superficial shit that most other couples talk about. I knew I had found a keeper when she attentively listened to me rambling about paperwork. Okay, I say. I'll tell you, but I'm warning you. This is gonna sound crazy. Now you've really got my interest. Right. I straighten my back. You know what the key to the whole thing was? No. What was it? This restaurant, I say, pointing my finger at the floor. What? She whispered. Holy shit. Yes. Believe me, I was as shocked as you are now, but it's true. This place was the only thing tying the victims together. There was little else. Hell, even the methods used were sometimes so different that it took a long time to identify the murders as the serial killings that they were. I mean, there was this woman who was tied to her armchair and burned alive, that middle-aged man, Schillinger, who had his head smashed in with a brick, and that college student whose face was jammed into a lawnmower. All strange murders with no witnesses, no fingerprints, and no suspects with discernible motives. It wasn't until we found 3 bodies in 3 different towns that it got really serious. Right, she says. The 3 hanging corpses, the ones with bruises all over their bodies. Yes, I say. They were the ones who helped turn the tide for the investigation. From seemingly disconnected killings spread across multiple cities, the case became about the most prolific serial killer in this part of the country. But even then, tying those murders with the other ones was still an incredibly difficult task. It was all conjecture at that point. The connections were wafer thin. Yeah, sure, it was odd to find a battered corpse hanging from the ceiling fan inside a room locked from the inside, but that didn't necessarily mean that it was just like the charred corpse found in another locked room, right? For all we knew, the latter could have just been a suicide. No, we needed stronger evidence. And it was this restaurant, she says, and I see her shiver. It was a complete accident that I found out about it. As you know, I've been working late nights, just poring over the documents, trying to make sense of this stupefying case. Hours would go by and it would be midnight before I noticed it. I would get so engrossed that I'd even forget to eat. Whenever that happened, I would usually go out and grab a sandwich or something instead of coming back home and creating a ruckus in the kitchen while you were trying to sleep. Sometimes I'd come here, despite how expensive it can be compared to my other options. I don't know. It just reminds me of happier times, I guess. And it was on one of those nights that I found that one piece of evidence that cracked this case wide open. What was it? She asks, her unblinking eyes fully focused on me. I shake my head in wonder. You wouldn't believe it if I told you. It was right fucking there, staring me in the face, and I missed it. But not that night, thank God. It had been raining. I was drenched, exhausted, hungry, and with a pounding headache to boot. Just wanted to quickly fill my belly and go back home. I gave the waiter my usual order, sighed, and leaned back in my chair. That one, over there. She turns her neck and looks at the spot I'm pointing at. So I craned my neck, I continue, and looked at the wall in front of me. And that's where I saw it. framed fucking pictures of 2 of the victims hanging on the wall. No, don't look there. They took them down, obviously. She turns back around sharply. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. My first instinct was to believe that I was hallucinating, that my obsession and exhaustion had formed a heady little cocktail that was messing with my mind. So I pinched myself, rubbed my eyes, and all that jazz. But they were still there. Samantha Hoffman, the 29-year-old waitress whose body was cut into 11 pieces that were found strewn across her living room floor by her husband after he came back from a work trip. They lived 67 miles away. What the fuck was her picture doing here? And Daniel Iverson, one of the hanging corpses from our city. His photograph was up on the wall too. Oh my, so what did you do? She asks. I grabbed the manager and told him that I needed to know about those pictures. He tells me that he doesn't really know who they were, that it's a tradition of the restaurant to take pictures of their customers, with their consent of course, and put them up on the wall. They change them every 6 months or so. Good business practice, he says. Shows people having fun here, lets other customers know that this restaurant's food, its vibe, its quality of service are all top-notch. And that's how I eventually found out that all the victims had visited this restaurant sometime before their deaths. Holy shit! She rubs her arms. The killer was connected to this place. An employee of the restaurant or a regular customer or something. That's exactly what I thought, I admitted. After we'd checked the security footage and confirmed that at least 4 more victims had visited this place, we guessed that the killer was using this restaurant as his hunting ground. So we went about checking up on everyone who visited this place regularly. Waiters, cooks, the manager, the janitorial staff, the private night security, frequent customers, all of them. But not one suspect fit the bill. Sure, there were suspicious characters, but nothing that could help us pin down the killer. Strong alibis made our job that much harder. I was getting increasingly frustrated. It seemed like I was so close, so fucking close, but the answer was just out of my reach. The media was breathing down our necks and I was losing my fucking mind. I even started taking my anger out on you, and the distance between us just grew more and more. My guilt only made me angrier, a self-fulfilling loop of rage. She winces. Yeah, I wasn't an angel either. I really should have been more understanding. It was the owner of this restaurant, Desmond Miller, who gave me that last breakthrough I needed in this case. I had been too persistent, to the point that it was bordering on harassment of his employees, so he figured he'd give up and tell me what all this sordid mess was really about. He invited me over to his office one evening, sat me down, offered me one of his cigars, and told me about the murder of one of his ancestors and how it was tied to the case that I was working on. Wow, ancestors? Yeah, I reply. And we haven't even gotten to the crazy part yet. So Desmond tells me that about 150 years ago, his great-great-grandfather or something built a manor on this very land that the restaurant currently stands on and started living there with his wife. They had no children, a fact that was greatly resented by the master of the house. He needed an heir, a good strong son, and his wife, who just so happened to be barren, was incapable of giving him that. So he planned to cast her out and have sons with another, much younger woman. His wife found out what he was planning on doing, saw that he was going to leave her broken-hearted and penniless, so she killed herself before he could put her through all that dishonor. She blinks. What exactly does that have to do with this case? I'm getting to that, I say. Desmond said that as the woman threw herself off the balcony, she cursed her husband with all of her strength, screamed that she wished he, and everyone like him, all the backstabbing pieces of shit in the world, would burn in hell for all eternity. Desmond said that as the story goes, the power of her curse shook the heavens. Thunder cracked the sky open. Lightning struck the house and set it ablaze and all that good stuff. He told me that it's her. She's the killer that I had been pursuing. Every couple of decades or so, she enters our world and starts murdering those deserving of her wrath and enslaves their souls, binds them to herself and to her land, only letting them out once a year. Adulterers, cheaters, those who are unfaithful to their spouses or partners, she kills them all. She gawks at me. Are you fucking with me right now? You are, aren't you? There's no way you expect me to believe some ghost story. I throw my hands up. That was exactly my reaction. Worse, even. I wanted to beat that asshole up. Thought that he was making fun of me for being utterly ineffective at my job. I guess he saw the rage on my face because he told me I didn't have to believe him. I could test the theory out myself. Test it out? She asks. Beads of sweat begin to bud on her forehead. She squirms in her seat like she's trying to work out a knot in the padding. Yeah, test it out, I answer. See, the way this curse is supposed to work is that if she's active in our world, all you have to do is step on her property and you'll be marked. If you've betrayed your lover, that is. No matter where you go afterwards, no matter how far you run from this place, she'll find you and kill you in the most horrific manner possible. There's no stopping her. No rituals or exorcisms work. Desmond says that they tried all that in the past. Nothing worked. All you can do, really, is wait out the storm. Besides not cheating in the first place, of course. She doesn't say anything. Just chews her lip and clenches her fists on the table. Her beautiful brown eyes dart around like those of a cornered rat. So all I have to do is bring a cheater out here and see for myself whether the curse is real or not. Enough, she growls. This isn't funny, you know. I know what you're doing. You think I'm cheating on you, don't you? This, she waves her arm around wildly, is all just a game to get me to confess, isn't it? Well, asshole, it's not going to work, because there's nothing to confess. I let out an exhausted sigh, lean back in my chair, and run my fingers through my hair. There she goes, trying to regain control again. Shit just never changes. I don't want your confession. I already know. She waits for me to continue. I can see her closed fists shaking in anger and fear. I stare at her. My eyes harden. Really? My brother? My fucking brother? She gasps. Her eyes drift over my face. The realization dawns on her. I know. I really know. Tears spring forth, right on cue. Oh, honey, it's not what I think. It didn't really mean anything. You love me and never wanted to hurt me. Are you sure that's what you should be thinking about right now? She stares at me, unsure of what I'm getting at. I tap my watch. Tick-tock. The clock is ticking, darling. Cordelia Miller's coming for you. She jumps out of her chair. You were joking about that, weren't you? A sob escapes from her chest when she sees that I'm refusing to reply. I'm sorry, I have to go, she cries before she rushes towards the front door, stumbling along the way. She's almost at the door. No, not yet. Can't just let it end like this. Oh, one more thing before you leave, I yell, just as she's about to leave. She stops, turns around. Her knees are trembling, mascara running down the side of her face. Shit, it really doesn't change. It's almost not fun anymore. What? She asks, her voice cracked. No, broken. Don't bother running. It's already too late. Cordelia's already won. What do you mean? She asks, wiping the tears off her face. I rub my eyes. Honey, what year do you think this is? Huh? Humor me. Just answer my question. 2009? I smile. Behind me, a rat skitters across the cracked, dust-riddled marble of what once used to be the reception desk.
Chilling tales for dark nights.